the fundamentals. Good to have you on board, Saurabh, and entire banking space, because it's not just, the front large cap banks.
I mean, look, I think the best way to think, one day the business cycle will weaken, and if you don't have the strongest players, then you could potentially get beaten up in the downturn of the business cycle. So we've historically gone for the strongest banks and NBFCs, the Bajaj Finances and Cholamandalams on the NBFC side, HDFC Bank, Kotak Bank, Axis Bank have historically have been our big plays. Over the last couple of months, for the first time in Marcellus's history, we built a meaningful position in ICICI Bank. We'll carry on building that with our home first, and we have mass financials as well. And Nancy's right ahead of them.
That's an interesting one, Saurabh, since you mentioned home first, I want to dig a little deeper into that. Why?
Holders, big fans of what Mr. Jhunjhunwala has done there, built a up on distribution. And whilst in East Zone and North, a lot of money on that, and we have to thank Mr. Jhunjhunwala for building Borosil. Will give them some competition, but it's still a category large enough for two credible players, Laopala and Boros, and do justice to the quality of the product that's literally put on the table.
And Saurabh, going through the recent additions and exits, besides that, what I see is that you've added ICICI Lombard General, a home first finance we've talked about.
Over the last 6 months, as Mr. Panda has come in as a regulator, and I think there's a lot of stuff happening in IRDA, which is very, very encouraging for high quality multi-line insurers like Abbott. Kudos to the regulator for coming in, positively shaking things up in the insurance sector. In Abbott's case, there's a couple of things which sort of worried us over the last year or so. The first is rapid erosion in Abbott's market share, and therefore in its cash flows and profitability. And it was worrying to see how quickly the Dufus Stone changes in the boardroom. I think in the last 5 role, and that sort of boardroom churn is always a little concerning.
You've been fairly, you've continued to talk about Suprajit as well as Eicher Motors. What's the outlook into that? Some of the other large caps say, why not the likes of M&M or a Maruti that are looking at an EV foray like a Tata Motors?
Portfolios. Now, on auto ancillaries, right, as I think you're alluding to, the auto OEM recovery seems to be on its way. I'm not sure the auto OEMs are roaring quite yet, but at least the last 4-5 Ryan team, consistent ROCs north of 20%, which is in a world-leading position now in cables. In cables going into our Suprajit position in our Rising Giants portfolio and in our mid-cap portfolio, that's a significant play. And our hope is that as the OEMs now, Eicher Motors long-standing holding in some of our portfolios, I think not the best, but the only credible player in the premier end of the motorbike market. And why not M&M? Why not Maruti Suzuki? We've sort of struggled to understand their pricing power, right? Unless you can charge premium prices, you're not going to make 30-40% out. And you want to consistently have upgrade cycles which are world-class Indian OEMs who actually command premium pricing, which becomes...
Saurabh, I want to talk about Titan, and I want to understand whether you've done...
Formula, right? Every stock has a position size that it merits, has made in the last decade or so. So Titan has a very large weight in our portfolio. It had a tremendous rally, and that rally pushed the portfolio weight above where it should be, and therefore we rebalanced it down. There is no diminution in our conviction on Titan. Remains a very large holding, and hopefully it'll make money on what we thought it merited.
Just starting to take to some of them. For example, Samir Arora and Helios. And
these companies carefully to see whether they can follow through on the commitment, because it's one thing, and I'm hoping, praying indeed that we see the word and in the stock price sense of the word.
Champs. I'm wondering who's behind these creative names.
Right, okay. No, I think the investment committee gets together and decides what is the theme that we want to convey, because people like you guys are busy people, and if we want to, it's easy for us to convey the essence of the product in 2 words rather than is the best small cap fund in the country. So we try to come up with a name which conveys the essence.
Googly, I was throwing at you anyway. But Saurabh, good to have. Okay, let's just revisit what the market has settled in at. It seemed like it's